Join me as I talk with edgy Christian fiction writer Michelle Sutton. Author of over 20 books, will be talking about her newest release and why she dares to trod where other Christian authors just won't. Coming up next, right here on The Right Stuff. You are listening to the best, the only place to be on Tuesday night. That's right, you're listening to The Right Stuff, and you're at the right place at the right time. From England to Canada, from Detroit to the Poconos, we are showcasing Christian authors worldwide, giving you tips, tools, techniques, and the resources for you, the writer, to hone and perfect your craft. Tune in every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time right here on WPJC 104.5. And your host, Parker J. Cole. Hi, and welcome to the show. I am so glad you are here with me today for this edition of The Right Stuff. So excited to talk to Michelle Sutton. She is a new author I have recently discovered and is on my list of favorite authors to read. She writes a lot of edgy Christian romances, and she dares to try where other authors won't. And we'll be celebrating her work as well as talking about her newest release, The Finish Line, as well as some of her other works as well. So you definitely want to stay tuned for this edition of The Right Stuff. I got a few announcements to make today. The first is that I want to, as always, thank you for your support of my books, the Sins of the Flesh series, as well as Dark Cherub, Druid Spear, and then my newest release, The Cure. The Cure is available on Amazon.com only and exclusively, and get that for $2.99. And I would love to know your thoughts about it, and there'll be a special promotion coming up next month with The Cure, so stay tuned right here. As I told you before in the last few weeks, I will be teaching at the Southern California Christian Writers Conference. And as I give you more information, I want you to go ahead and partake of some of the specials they have here. So if you sign up for the Southern California's Christian Writers Conference, if you sign up and then bring a friend with you, that friend will get half off on their registration. So you definitely want to find out more about that. Just simply go to SoCalCWC.com/bring-a-friend. So you want to go to SoCalCWC.com, bring a friend with dashes between bring and a, to register, and you're going to get half off. One of you will get half off on your registration, and that's a special offer for the month of February. So you definitely want to take time out and exclusively try to go ahead and register for the Southern California Christian Writers Conference. I'll be there this year, June 22nd through the 24th. I'll be teaching two workshops. The first workshop I'll be teaching is I Swear, using harsh language and swearing in Christian fiction. And the second workshop I'll be teaching is talking about taboo subjects within Christian fiction. Looking really forward to that. But if you want to meet me a little bit before then, you can always join our Facebook group, a party. The Facebook party is coming up on February 27th at 4 to 6 p.m. PST time, so I'll be there around 6 o'clock or so, and you'll be able to just chat with me, see what's going on, what the conference is going to be about, and some of the other faculty that will be joining us. So I'm really, really excited about this conference, really excited to be there, and if you're in the area, I would love to see you, so make sure you try to get there this year. It's again from June 22nd through the 24th, the Southern California Christian Writers Conference. You definitely don't want to miss this conference. As always, if you want to join on our conversation, you can certainly call in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air. Or you can hit me on Twitter at Parker J. Cole, #RightStuff with your questions and comments. We're going to go ahead and take a quick short break. We'll be right back after these messages. We're back and you're hanging out. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Are you a reader looking for more compelling Christian fiction? Maybe something a little more edgy or a bit more real? Are you tired of most Christian fiction shying away from the truth and settling for a rose-tinted view of the world and its issues? Or are you an author who has a compelling story to tell, but you're afraid it doesn't jive with today's brand of Christian or secular fiction? Are you tired of Christian publishers telling you that your content is too edgy? Or maybe you've tried submitting your content under the radar to secular publishers only to be told your themes are a bit too religious? We invite you to take a look at the Crossover Alliance. We are an online publishing company that specializes in edgy Christian speculative fiction with Christian themes and real-world content. Our company is formed from authors and readers just like you who are breaking into the mainstream and Christian markets with this compelling genre. Head over to the www.thecrossoveralliance.com for all the details on who we are, what we do, and what we accept. Right now, if you sign up for our email newsletter, you'll receive a free digital copy of our first short story anthology. Check us out today and help us spread the word about the Crossover Alliance, where light shines brighter in the darkness.
Have you read the latest issue of SORMAG Digital, the award-winning literary magazine for multicultural readers and writers? SORMAG Digital is available quarterly and showcases interviews with the best authors in multicultural literature. SORMAG Digital features craft and business articles for those interested in writing. If you're looking for a good book, check out our book reviews on what's hot in multicultural literature. For writers looking for new readers to get in front of, SORMAG Digital is the perfect place to introduce your book. We offer advertising spaces that fit your promotional budget. Get your free subscription on SORMAG.com or order a print issue on MagCloud.com. If you would like more information about SORMAG Digital, check us out on SORMAG.com or contact us at SORMAG@yahoo.com. SORMAG Digital is the magazine for multicultural readers and writers.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff. Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. So glad you are here with me on the show today. We're going to be talking to a new author I have recently discovered, and I love her books. I love what she's doing. Her name is Michelle Sutton, and she is an author of edgy Christian romances, and she dares to try what other authors won't try, especially in the mainstream Christian publishing arena. And Michelle, I want to thank you again for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, hi.
You're like, yeah, hi. I know it's where you are, it's nice and toasty there, whereas here we're just getting just a little bit of a breeze here. So what's the weather like there where you are?
Well, I had to find a shady spot to park in, and the reason I said yeah is because I thought I heard some feedback, but I'm good.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Well, I'm glad that you were able to join us on the show today, especially when you take time out of your schedule to be with us. I'm always so glad to be here with you, to have our guests with us, because I really appreciate what you are bringing to the Christian publishing arena. And so I want people to know who you are in your own words. So go ahead and tell us who you are.
Well, I am an author who basically have always been a reader since I was young. I think I read every book in the library when I was a kid. And then I just decided in 2003, 2004, that I'd read enough books, but none of them had exactly what I wanted in there. And I found an author who ironically wrote for Love Inspired, but she really pushed the envelope, so I was surprised that she was able to write what she did. So I wrote to her, and she wrote me back and sent me some books that were out of print that I loved. And I asked her how she started writing, and she said, well, when her kids went off to college, she had nothing to do, so she took some creative writing classes and started writing books. And I thought, So anyway, so then I thought I'd play with it, and I started writing just for fun. And then I heard about a conference in 2004 where Francine Rivers was the keynote speaker, and I loved her book, so I signed up, and the rest is history.
Well, it's nothing like that. Everyone has such a unique way of entering into the writer's field. I know for myself, I always knew this was something I would do. I always knew it since I was a little kid. This was what I was going to do. So it's always interesting how different people wind up in the industry, especially as writers, whether you write Christian or not, or secular or not. It's always interesting how people end up there. And so, you are very particular about the kind of things that you write about, and specifically you say, I write edgy Christian romances. And I've explained that on the show before, but go ahead, just tell us what you think edgy Christian romances mean.
Well, the way I always describe it is I basically say that when I write a book, I don't write what the publisher expects you to, how they expect you to respond. I write about what the person's actually thinking, not what they should be thinking, and what they're actually doing, not what they should be doing, and how they're feeling about it, not how they should feel about it. And so basically any story to me that I don't walk away from feeling like it's impacted my life in any way is a waste of my time. So when I write a book, I want to write a book that has a theme that tells the reader at the end of the story, wow, this person went through some awful stuff, but they came out stronger in the end. And I'll even have the character ask themselves, if I can make this all go away, would I want it to? Well, no, because even though it's horrible, it changed who I am. I come to know the Lord. I have a relationship with Jesus that I didn't have before. I have a marriage that I wouldn't have had before, that kind of stuff. So basically, I run them through the ringer, and I have them act like people are supposed to act, or like they actually do act, not like how they should act. And I can't stand reading books that are so everybody does what they're supposed to do and thinks the way they're supposed to think, and the biggest temptation they have is putting their toe in the deep end and pulling it out real fast. To me, that's not real life.
Yeah, because, people generally are hard-headed, and, we're generally hard-headed, and we can know what to do, but when our own desires, our agendas, our feelings, or our whatever gets in the way of doing what God says, we tend to just make all kind of mistakes, and that's been repeated over and over and over again. So I like how you take a very candid and forward approach to your fiction, especially as you're writing that. And one thing that you said that I found interesting is that you write how people act, not how they should act. Well, let me counter that with this question. I know some people, especially in the conservative market, would say, well, isn't Christian fiction or Christian romances in general, since we talk romance today, isn't Christian romance supposed to show a wholesome viewpoint of romance? What would you say to that question?
I would say that if I homeschooled my kids and they never heard anything in the outside world, and I raised them I hate to say it, in a bubble, I knew a lot of people who homeschool their kids, and it's a great experience, but it doesn't prepare them for the real world. And so I think, let me give you an example. I wrote a book about a girl who's tempted to but didn't actually have sex, okay? Which is funny because it was a perfect book for this one girl who was dating this guy who wasn't a Christian. But her mom refused to let her read it because it might make her do something she shouldn't do, even though the character was doing the right thing and not doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And her daughter ended up pregnant a few months later, and I'm thinking, well, she should have read my book. Just saying. Because maybe he wouldn't have talked her into that corner. I have a pastor son who basically runs down everything you could possibly think of to trip you up into, if you were a girl and you didn't want to lose your boyfriend. He tried everything he could think of to make her, try to break her down. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, that manipulative guy, there's guys out there like that. They'll tell you whatever they think will work. And so I kind of felt bad, So I'm like, well, maybe if she'd read my book, she'd have heard a few of those lines, and she might not have slept with her boyfriend. I don't know. So it can be. In fact, let me tell you, the first conference I went to, there's another author who's published now, so I won't mention what her name is. But we had opposing viewpoints, and the editor that was at her table found it fascinating how opposing our viewpoints were. She brought up some of her son's favorite bands and she said how horrible they were. And I said, isn't that funny? That's my favorite band. Those are my favorite bands, and I was older than her.
Yeah.
So anyways, we were talking, and she was like, well, I think all Christian books should show moral characters and how girls should behave and all this stuff. And I said, well, isn't that funny? Because I think a Christian book should show all the things you shouldn't do so you learn from it, kind of like a younger sibling watching her older sibling mess up really bad, so you won't go down that road. So we had two totally different viewpoints on how people can learn from what they read, I guess.
The interesting thing about that, it makes sense. And the interesting thing about that is that the Bible doesn't show the patriarchs of the faith acting right either. The Bible doesn't show that. I mean, let's look at David and go no further. Let's look at David. Let's stop there. Just, David, and God called him a man of his own heart, and David had a lot of hiccups, and then let's look at King Solomon. He had a lot of hiccups, and then let's look at Moses and Abraham and, the sons of Jacob and all these, these are the patriarchs of the Bible, and they had a lot of hiccups, and they didn't always show a moral high road and a moral high character. So it's very interesting that she would say that, even though I understand where she's coming from, because I do believe there could be a benchmark to work towards. I feel that. But I do think in today's Christian world, so many Christians are so lackadaisical in their Christian walk, and they're so and I'll say we're lackadaisical in our Christian walk. We don't really believe if the Bible is true. We don't know if it's this and that. And so we make all these mistakes like we don't have a God that is alive and well. And so I think where you're coming from is showing these characters and these Christians or non-Christians who come to Christ or come to the Lord or whatever, redemption, whatever it is, and you're showing these characters how people act. And I totally can really feel where you're coming from. I really feel where you're coming from. So it's interesting that you guys had two opposing viewpoints, but I still think both of you are doing the work of the Lord in your own separate ways. I think each of you have a different market that you're going to appeal to. And I think that's an interesting idea.
Right.
And so, what were we going to say to that?
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, there are some people. I mean, for example, when I was a teenager, I won't even tell you the things that I did. But my boys both went off to college having never had sex or anything. And one of them to this day, not that I want to share his personal business, but he's 23 years old and he still hasn't dated. But he does like girls, you know? So obviously you can be, you don't have to go delving into drugs, and he never smoked, never drank, or any of that stuff. That's just not who he is. So it's possible to still be aware of all these things and not do them. So there are books for people who don't do things that some of my characters might do. But what I try to do is I try to show, here's another thing too, like if you have a character, you know how the Bible says you're not going to continue in sin if you really know the Lord, you're not going to keep sinning. Well, even for people that do, I make them very miserable about it so that they never feel good about doing the wrong thing, because if you do know the Lord, you don't feel good about doing the wrong thing. But then if you don't feel bad about it, then maybe as a reader you'll say, why don't I feel guilty? Why am I rationalizing what I'm doing? Maybe I need to look at my, you know what I mean? Maybe I need to do some self-reflection. Maybe this is all just something I'm doing and not, not real, So I try to have different kinds of characters with different kinds of backgrounds. I like to torture people a little bit with things that they want that they can't have, but that they work towards, like for example, the story we were going to talk about, The Finish Line, that one there. I take this guy who's dated every beautiful woman possible because he's got the paparazzi chasing him in the whole 9 yards, and he becomes a Christian, and he's never had to say no to himself before ever. Right, and then so he wants to convince his dad that he's going to settle down and get married. So he finds this girl who's a virgin who's never even really dated anybody, and so then she starts to feel insecure about how he's dated all these women. So she has to be sexy and all this stuff in her mind. And he's like, no, the appeal that you have to me is that you're not like all those other women. So it's kind of like a back and forth, torture kind of thing, and that's what part of romance that you don't usually read about in Christian fiction. Someone who's trying to be good when it's hard because he's never had to before. Anyway, so that's the kind of character that I write. Because to me, there's no sexier hero than a guy who controls himself.
Yes, and I've read tons of romances over the years, tons, secular and not. I've read tons of them, so I totally understand where you're coming from. And what I like about it is that, too, that there is sexual chemistry between people. It is a natural thing when people are attracted to each other. There is sexual chemistry, and that's okay. It's just that you don't have to fall victim to it all the time, And if you do fall victim, the Lord is a God of redemption, as long as you learn to control yourself. And one of the things that I've always said on the show is that one of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control. Self-control is a fruit of spirit. You know what I mean? And so, we may be struck by these urges. We don't have to always succumb to them. And then God gave us the godly outlet for succumbing to our sexual urges, which is marriage, and that's why you wait. But then because sex is such a huge part of a relationship, it's not the biggest part, it's a huge part of a relationship, the reason why you wait to do is because there are other things involved with the person that you get with. There are other things involved. Like, that's why some people, that's why I'm an advocate of dating before. Some people are not advocates of dating. Some people are. They have, good reasons for either or. But, you find out about the person before you give yourself sexually to them. But nowadays people think that's a stupid idea. And they said, well, you got to try it out. If I bought a car, I would have to try the car before I buy the car. Well, now, the same thing with this person. That's what I've heard so many times. You know, you go look into the house before you buy the house. You know, I said, but I'm not a house, nor am I a car. You know what I mean? I'm not an inanimate object. I'm a human being with feelings. And so that's why you get all these things hashed out before you give yourself sexually in the confines of marriage to somebody, you know. And we're going to talk about that on the other side of break, some more about what Michelle is doing in her edgy Christian romances. And I got to say about the one I finished reading that I absolutely love. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. If you want to call in, you certainly can by calling in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air. Or you can hit me on Twitter at ParkerJCole, #RightStuff with your questions and comments. We're going to take a quick short break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Has God called you to be a pastor or leader, but the men and women in your church won't let you speak because you're a female? Is the call to minister strong on your life, but you hesitate because you think the Bible tells women to be silent in the church? I'm Jory Micah, and I am here to tell you, sister, that together we can break the glass steeple. I fight and advocate for gender equality in the church, and there are others with me who are holding up the banner. Subscribe to my blog at JORYMICAH.com for interviews, commentary, and uplifting words to give you the motivation to answer the call to ministry. Together, we can break the glass steeple and inspire all of God's children, men and women alike, to answer the call to ministry.
Engaging the culture's imagination through speculative fiction, the Untold Podcast produces audio fiction from a Christian worldview. Find us over at untoldpodcast.com, where we partner with authors to tell science fiction, fantasy, supernatural, and horror stories. Find links at untoldpodcast.com to subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, and a variety of other platforms. Each month we produce high-quality audio fiction that's free to download and free to listen. Our submissions are open, and we're always looking to add another great story to over 24 hours of narrative entertainment. Find all of our audio fiction over at www.untoldpodcast.com.
Question: if you write a book, everybody will rush out to buy it. Obvious answer: no. If you were a celebrity or if you had a huge marketing budget, then maybe you can get a lot of exposure for your book. Another solution would be to check out joeytweets.com. joeytweets.com is a promotion and marketing service with access to over 1/3 of a million followers on Twitter. joeytweets.com has 3 packages available to fit any budget. That's joeytweets.com. joeytweets.com. Get some serious exposure for your books.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff. Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. So glad you are here with me today. I'm so excited that you are, because we're talking to one of my new favorite authors. Her name is Michelle Sutton. She is the author of over 20 books, most of them edgy Christian romances that really deals with real characters, real people that exist in real world, in real USA or real whatever world today. And Michelle, once again, thank you so much for being with us on the show today.
For having me.
You know, I'm really, we were talking before the break about, you know, how you show that sexual chemistry, how you show how these characters make all these mistakes, because one of your goals is to, first of all, tell a good story. Because I'm sorry, the most boring story is the ones where everybody makes the right mistakes, no one gets killed, no one gets hurt, no one happens to anybody, and, you know, everyone's just barely in the nick of time, you know. But you like to show, hopefully, that with these characters, that they can, that you can learn from their characters' mistakes. So we were talking about how sexual chemistry is a huge part of a relationship, and how your new book, The Finish Line, kind of really deals with this type of issue. But I want to go ahead and kind of talk and dig some more into The Finish Line, because I cannot pronounce your character's last name. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about Bree. Can I give some more in-depth information about Bree?
It means Bree Le Fleur means the flower in French. Le Fleur.
Oh, okay.
I thought it sounded cool. I just give her, I give her a background. You're always supposed to put two people that are very unlikely to get together. You're supposed to get them together somehow. And she was a nurse at a burn unit. Her brother, raced cars and played chicken one day, and they kind of hit head on, and he got burned, which is why she became a burn nurse. Anyway, so she ended up moving to Arizona to house sit for her uncle, just to get away from everything because her brother died from his injuries. And so, of course, her next door neighbor has got to be a race car driver, which is a dangerous occupation.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's full of himself, and he's so and he's got a 2-story house. So the first day he sees her out his bedroom window, and she feels like someone's watching her and kind of gets the creeps about it. And then he walks into her backyard and scares the living daylights out of her because the fence wasn't locked. But she was just appalled that he would just walk in there and admit that he was watching her. So it kind of starts out interesting, but. He really needs a good girl in his life, and because his dad's got this multi-billion-dollar business, and he wants to retire, and his only son, he said, I don't trust you to run it because you can't even run your own personal life. So he has to retire from the track and settle down, and, he only knows fast people. So basically she says the only way she'll date him is if he goes to church with her, and she's not even really that strong at the moment either because she's kind of disillusioned because of her brother's accident and everything else.
Right.
So anyway, so she goes to a church. His best friend is a Christian, of course. He had to know him his whole life. So his best friend can tell him like it is, and he listens to it. He's like, I'll tolerate your preaching because, I've known you my whole life, but, I'm never going to go to church. And then, of course, he calls up and says, so what church do you go to? Because he wants to go out with her so bad. She said, the only way I'm going out with you is if we go to church somewhere. So they go to his friend's church, basically. So that's which is amazing to his friend because he's like, wow, I can't believe a girl got you into church. But anyway, but he actually listens, and then he's never heard any of that stuff before. So he actually takes the message to heart, and he changes his life around, and so it's a whole different world for him, basically. It's kind of cool. He's a cool guy. I'm making a second book because I'm showing the years, 4 years after, she's pregnant with twins and they have a toddler, and their whole world explodes, and she ends up having to work because he can't anymore, and so I'm writing that right now, and so anyway, that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm developing the plot right now.
Okay, and what I really like about the story is that there's a lot going on. There's a whole lot going on. And so what I like, too, is that you have these opposite tracks. And that's a huge trope that's in a lot of romance novels. But it's a really good one because we keep that alive. We keep the feelings alive. We keep, I want her, I can't have her. Let me ask you a question. And I've read hundreds of romance novels over the years. I pretty much know almost every single trope out there when it comes to romances. But do you think the appeal of romance novels is the fact that we have those opposites attract, that the guy who's, if he's an alpha male or alpha-like male, he wants that good girl? Is that just what naturally attracts the man to the female? What do you think?
Well, I think it depends. I think if you're going to have a conflict or some reason why they shouldn't be together, it has to be believable. I have another story where this woman is afraid of guns because she was basically kidnapped and held at gunpoint by this sex trafficker guy. It's really an edgy story. But anyway, so the guy that she's working for in this country has a gun with him all the time because he was robbed at night when he was alone in a restaurant closing up, so he will not go anywhere without a gun. So she's afraid of guns, and he carries one all the time. That kind of stuff, it can make for an underlying conflict, but it's not the driving conflict in this story. It's not what drives the story. It's just kind of like a barrier, to trusting somebody else. But I don't like the ones that feel contrived, or it's like, oh, really? You lied to her, and now, 60 pages later, you're sort of going to hint about, I don't know, that stuff feels kind of forced and fake to me. It has to make sense. It can't just be some contrived thing.
Yeah.
It can't just be a misunderstanding to take the whole book up. It has to be more than that. So. That's
so who's your for the finish line, who's your target market? Is it a young adult? Is it new adult crowd? Who's your target market?
My target market, well, it's kind of it's a touchy book for a lot of conservative people because it kind of pushes the envelope. But for people who like that kind of story, they love the book. It's just the people that, they don't want too much on camera attention, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my target would probably be more new adult because I noticed I get these newsletters. It seems like every new adult story is like people are having sex.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, is that all that people do now in the secular world? Is they have sex and they read books about people having sex? That's what it sounds like. So anyway, so these people don't have sex, but there's times when they're feeling like they want to, and I think that's about as far as I'm going to go. But at the same time, it gives it more of a realistic feel. So for people who like to read those kind of books but not going all the way there, might enjoy that,
It's funny you mentioned about the new adults because I was branching out, reading some different things, kind of see what's kind of what's kind of out there, because we read a lot of Christian fiction, but sometimes you just want to just see what else is out there, And so I was reading a bad boy romance with a mafia, and they were just it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable, It's like, so he's a mafia, he's killed people, but there's a heart of gold somewhere inside of him somewhere, But they really do make for great stories when it comes to bringing opposites attracts or bringing that element of innocence from someone's point, whether it's from the guy's point or the girl's point, bringing that element in there. And I like how you said that, with this story, especially the finish line, you're trying to be realistic as possible by, demonstrating that sexual chemistry that exists, which is a very powerful force. It's a very powerful force sexual chemistry is. And I like how you said earlier, maybe if some people can read it now, they say, oh, my, they made a ton of mistakes. I won't do that again, and maybe that can help someone not make the same mistakes, which is what you like to do when it comes to your stories. And then I got to digress for our listeners because the book that I read by Michelle Sutton that was very, very good was a book called Never Without Hope. And, Michelle, like I told you just privately, I said, I had every intention of just reading the one chapter and just say, okay, I'll go to bed and, pick up next tomorrow. I read that book in one day. I think I read it in 4 hours. And I was reading that book. It was such a good book. I was gripped from the first page all the way to the last. And I was just astounded by a story that felt so realistic. I literally thought this could be any woman's story. It wasn't like it was just a character story. I said this could be any woman's story who is dealing with this type of situation. And I want our listeners to know something really good about Never Without Hope. So go ahead and tell them that really good, nice thing they're really going to like about Never Without Hope that's happening today.
Oh, yes. It's free on Kindle.
Yeah.
And it'll be free tomorrow also. It's only 99 cents otherwise, but I noticed a pattern. Once somebody reads the first book, it's like bing, bing, bing. I can see the sales every day. Someone buys the next book. It's kind of funny. But so I figured, hey, I've never given it free, so I'm going to give it free just for the heck of it. And if people really enjoy it, I expound there's 4 books in the series, but each one adds an additional character. So, like, the first book is only from Hope's point of view, and I still find it very hilarious to me that people are like, wow, I feel like I understood everyone's point of view. Well, that's really funny because there's only one point of view for the whole book. But then
do not tell me anything else about the other books. I am very spoiler sensitive, Michelle. I'm spoiler sensitive.
No, I'm not telling you anything except I expand it by 2 points of view.
Oh, good.
So the second book has 2 points of view, the third book has 3 points of view, and the fourth book has 4 points of view.
Okay, good. Real excited about that. I just love that series. And I loved it. And I told you, I said, oh, my gosh, you are the queen. I bow. I can't wait till I grow up. That's the first thing I said, And what I like about Never Without Hope for our listeners out there, it's free today. Go ahead and get your copy of it today. You're going to enjoy it. And then for those of you holding online and want to speak to our guests, simply press 1 to speak to our guest, ask a question or a comment. But what I really liked about Never Without Hope was how it happened so naturally. This woman's ideas happened so naturally. It happened when she felt her fall. It happened naturally. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're watching her fall. You're screaming at her, don't fall. You're going to fall. And she's making every mistake possible, but it's a mistake each of us can make. And I really like that realistic punch that you put into that book. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about just the genesis of that idea, where it came from.
Well, and let me just add this too. Ironically, some of my biggest fans of that book are people that have never even kissed a guy who are in their 30s. So it's ironic to me, but they said that story is like the slippery slope for any sin you have at all, whether it's lying, whether it's stealing, whether it's doing drugs, whatever. It doesn't have to be sex-related, but the same exact process of rationalization, justification, I'm never going to do it again, this is the last time, and all those things, they all could relate to. So they said it was very believable that way, even though they'd never even kissed a guy. I'm like, well, I'm really glad you enjoyed that. But they did say one thing they learned is the not to stray in marriage. Speaking of that book, and the whole purpose I wrote the book was, you know, a lot of the times as Christians we say, oh, I would never do that. Should she on her husband? I would never do that. So I thought, in what situation would someone do that? Well, let's see. The Bible does say not to deprive your spouse lest they stray. Hey, there's a good one.
Yeah.
So I showed that, and it's funny because Christian publishers, I actually I ended up getting my rights back and doing it myself. But initially I got a small publishing house to take it because he said, I want to take any book that's going to stir people up that traditional houses wouldn't take. Well, the traditional Christian publisher would have taken that story if I had started it after all her sins. Well, nobody would have liked her. If I'd have waited until after all that and started it from all you would have thought was, well, she's a cheating scumbag. I don't like her.
Yeah.
How can you relate to her, you know? So I just couldn't do it. I had to show how she got there, where her mind was at in the beginning. And then I thought, I want to play with this even more. What do you do when you go to your women's Bible study and you throw out a little small tidbit and, oh, my gosh, they can't handle that, let alone a big one, so I'm not going to tell anybody there. And then you have to keep going to church knowing what you're doing on the side. How do you do that? I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, I thought, well, this will be really fun to write because it could be anybody, you know. And interestingly enough, I've had enough experiences. I was at this retreat, women's retreat once for a church, and people were talking about kind of like petty stuff, like, oh, you know, so-and-so we don't have enough volunteers for Sunday school teaching or whatever. And then out of the blue, the pastor's wife goes, I think my husband's having an affair. And we're like, what?
Wow.
All of a sudden it was like, okay, that changed the whole tone of everything, and we started praying for her. But interestingly enough, I've seen enough interesting stuff happen over the years where that would be hard to put together. And if I actually wrote a story like the pastor's wife and him separated, and the woman that he married, his wife that divorced him, she married the husband. So if I wrote a book like that, nobody would believe it. They'd be like, what? Yeah. But then the kids who were in Christian colleges at the time said it was very weird because it's like their parents swapped places. So
wow.
That's you know, he got a little haughty, I think, because they're a little proud because he got his PhD in theology, and he didn't have anybody he was accountable to, and he spent too much time counseling this one woman who'd been married several times before. But the pastor's wife ended up marrying the husband of the woman that cheated with her. So it's like,
wow,
that's the kind of stuff that happens in the real world.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know, they always say truth is stranger than fiction.
I'm telling you. But then people would be like, nah. But they spent so much time talking about their pain that they had like what I call a trauma bond, and it didn't last. Ironically, it didn't last. And the one that still stayed married were the people that left their spouses. I don't understand any of that, just so you know. But they had a bad foundation for their marriage because their only common thing was that they both were hurt by somebody else. That's a really bad reason to get married. So I might write a book like that someday, but I don't think anyone would believe it. So.
Oh wow, this would never have happened. We do got a caller calling, and we have Greg calling in from Rochester, New York. Greg, how are you doing today?
I am doing very well, Parker. Thank you.
And Greg, do you have a question or comment for our guest?
Yeah, I was wondering, you know, with writing edgy Christian fiction, like I'm still new at this. I'm still working on my first novel, and I was wondering, and the question can be for both of you, for both Parker and for the guest. I was wondering, how do you find the balance with, in writing fiction, we want to have realism, so there's going to be violence. There might be some language. And, you know, obviously you've talked quite a bit about sexuality. already. But especially with the violence and the language, how do you find the balance between realism and gratuity versus,
Michelle,
obviously going... Sorry, what was that?
No, go ahead and continue, Rick.
Handle that one.
Oh, so obviously there's the sweet romance out there, stuff where, it's not real, it's very sweet, it's nice, it's great for like it's great for like maybe my mother would like it, maybe a younger girl would like it, but it's not real. And then on the other hand, you have stories about people chopping people's arms off or whatever. And so how do you find that balance between what is between realism and gratuity? So I think that's my question.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because one of my sons who loved to read when he was in high school, sometimes if I had so many books, because I used to review a lot, I had so many books being sent to me, sometimes I go, hey, can you screen this one first for the grossness factor? And sometimes it'd be like, it's not too gross. And then I'd read it, and I'd be like, whoa, like I'm going to throw up, But I was thinking, isn't that funny that you can write about all these sick, disgusting, violent things that happen in quote-unquote Christian books, but you can't write about sexual temptation. I just don't get that. And your characters can't be divorced. I mean, there's just some weird stuff when it comes to that. So my when I write, I always just go with my gut, and if I feel like it's this is as far as they're going to go, and I just feel like this is as far as they should go. So I just go with my gut feeling about it, and if I need to change it later, I will. But usually, I think you develop an inner sense of just kind of like when you're writing a story, like, okay, this is the end of the chapter. You just kind of know. This is the perfect way for the book to end. I think the more you write, the more you get a sense for that. I was in a bunch of critique groups, but there were so many varying opinions about what I should and shouldn't do that I got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to write how I feel I should and not worry about it. So, and I had this really, really great story I pitched to an editor once, and he was fascinated by it, but he goes, but I just can't sit in a boardroom with a bunch of white Baptist preachers, men, and sell this book. They won't buy it. So I'm like, well, that's, because they were all conservatives, basically. But he said the story sounded fascinating to him, but he had to be able to sell it to them for them to buy it. And so I said, okay. But I learned from that anyway. I learned, I decided to go indie at some point. I mean, I had 3 different publishers. They were all small houses. To get a big publishing house to take you is really hard when they have so many already best-selling authors. They just they can produce like crazy. So if you're gonna write something that's different, you almost kind of have to go smaller, indie, or specialized somehow if you want to get your books out there. It depends. I can't make a living at it, but I do enjoy doing it, and for the little bit of money it does bring in, it's nice. I mean, I'd love for the Lord to build my business up so I could retire and have additional income, but it's not up to me. It's up to God and the word of mouth. So, I don't know if
thank you. Thank you. It answers my question really, really well. I just didn't know if I was still on air or not. Mind if I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Why do you think it is, like I was a kid in the 90s where anything that was popular automatically became bad in Christian mother circles. And, so anything like Power Rangers, even though if there's violence, they're fighting the bad guys, was bad. And without getting into any specific franchises, it seems like there's a trend where if something is interesting, there's an ultra-conservative strain that will regard it as bad. So why, and Christian publishers, it seems like, they want the sweet romance and everything. So why is interesting and edgy, why are these things somehow viewed as bad? Like how did that come about? Because obviously you look at the Bible and it's edgy. Sorry,
right.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it's probably word of mouth too, because most of my friends were stay-at-home moms or homeschool moms or both. and I actually had a job where I had to work. But my kids, I raised them in the 90s, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Harry Potter was bad. You know, oh my, you don't let your kids read Twilight. I mean, all those things. Whatever was popular, it was automatically bad. So if you wanted to write a nonfiction book about how evil Harry Potter was, sell 1 million copies. So I'm not quite sure why that was. I just remember hearing the same thing. It was like, okay, Pokemon's bad because it's about little demons, and you know, and so it's kind of funny because eventually my kids went off to college, and you know, they saw, you know, Harry Potter, and they said it really wasn't that bad. They never understood what was so bad about it, and I to this day haven't read it, but I don't really like that kind of genre anyways. But I'm not really sure. I just think it's like anything else, kind of trendy. Whatever's trendy in the world is therefore bad for Christians. I guess would be my, unless you're writing the opposite of it or the Christian equivalent of it somehow.
It was, it was strange for me because, like, I remember hearing the same thing where, you know, people were telling, there were these rumors that, oh, Pokemon are about little demons. And there were some, like, Shinto and, you know, Eastern, like, ideas in there. But, and, you know, some things bordered a little bit on the occult here or there. But, I mean, like, Pikachu certainly wasn't a demon. I mean, maybe they saw the ears and thought they were horns or something. I don't know.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Pikachu used to irritate me to no end because he never said anything else with Pikachu. And I'm like, this is, you know, but then we actually copied it in that movie Guardians of the Galaxy with Groot. So I guess things do rub off eventually. So, but Jack, I got another caller calling in, so I want to definitely take
awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks so much for calling in. And we have a caller calling. We have Lynette calling in from Rochester Hills, Michigan. Lynette, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. You have a question or comment for our guest?
I actually did, when the gentleman had asked about, like, how did that happen anyway? I was thinking about that, too, actually. He took it from me. But I wanted to know, do you write better in the daytime or at night? I tend to write a little bit better at nighttime, but it's never for long because I'd be so tired.
Actually, I started working 4/10, so I could have, like, in the middle of the week, I could have a day off, and then I had the weekends, and I tried to write on Wednesdays and on, like, Saturdays. But sometimes I'd just be, you know, at work, I'd be driving home, and I'd have this really great idea, and I'd want to add to my book. And other days, I just couldn't write to save my life. I have to be inspired, otherwise it kind of comes out as garbage, I think. If you try to make yourself right, there's some people that say you should make yourself right, but I found, me personally, when I make myself right, it's usually contrived, stupid-sounding stuff. So,
yeah, I have that same problem, actually. I be trying to write, and it's just so difficult sometimes when I don't have the inspiration, like you said. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
And Lynette, thank you so much for joining in the conversation. We're going to go ahead and take a quick short break. When we come back, we'll have the last 10 minutes or so to talk with Michelle. If you still have an opportunity, you still can talk to her by calling in at 646-668-8485, then press 1 to be live on air. Or hit me on Twitter at ParkerJCole, #WriteStuff with your questions and comments. And don't forget, just to let you know, her book, Never Without Hope, is free today. So go ahead and get a copy of that. It's free on Kindle. Go ahead and get a copy of it today. You will not be disappointed. We're going to take a quick short break. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Hi. Is your book club in need of some fresh and exciting questions to ask club members and authors at your next book club meeting? Literations, the book conversation game, is 70 thought-provoking questions to really get into an in-depth discussion about the books you and your club members are reading. These questions really get into the characters, the storyline, and into the author's head. These questions may just give you and your book club members a whole new way to get into a new conversation, a literation. Literations is also a great set of tools for bloggers, interviewers, and authors to use as discussion questions. Are you ready to get lit? Please visit our website at litversations.com, litversation.com. And please like our Facebook page at Simply Said Reading Accessories.
God gives humans the gift of making amazing stories to glorify Him. At speculativefaith.com, our ministry is to help fans explore fantasy, science fiction, supernatural stories, and beyond from an intentional and biblical Christian perspective. We share daily articles and have extensive archives tackling hot topics like end times beliefs, the art of writing, creative excellence in the Christian subcultures, discernment, sex, magic, Harry Potter, and space aliens and the Bible. If you are a parent or anyone else with a discriminating palate, our reviewers explore fantastical novels, movies, television, and games in light of God's beauty, goodness, and truth. Want to find Christian stories? The Spec Faith Library lists every fantastical novel we can find from a Christian author. It's all part of our mission to discern, engage, and enjoy fantastical human creativity in honor of our Creator, Jesus Christ. SpeculativeFaith.com, exploring fantastical stories for God's glory.
Question: if you write a book, everybody will rush out to buy it. Obvious answer: no. If you were a celebrity or if you had a huge marketing budget, then maybe you can get a lot of exposure for your book. Another solution would be to check out joeytweets.com. joeytweets.com is a promotion and marketing service with access to over 1/3 of a million followers on Twitter. joeytweets.com has 3 packages available to fit any budget. That's joeytweets.com. joeytweets.com. Get some serious exposure for your books.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff. Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. So glad you are here with me. We have been having such a great time talking to Michelle Sutton. She is the author of the new book, The Finish Line, which is available on Amazon.com right now, hot off the press. Go ahead and get a copy of The Finish Line today. And if you want to try her out without, quote unquote, any risk, and you're going to love her anyway, her book, the one that I totally fell in love with, Never Without Hope, is free today on Amazon. Go ahead, get a copy of that book. You are so going to enjoy that book. We are talking about twists and turns and moments, a ton of them, all within just those few pages of that book. You're going to absolutely love Never Without Hope. So go ahead, get a copy of The Finish Line today, and get your free copy of Never Without Hope today. Get 2 books for the price of 1, literally, today on Amazon.com, written by Michelle Sutton. Again, Michelle, once again, thank you so much for being with us on the show, taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. It has been such a rewarding time just talking to you. I love your candidness. I love your candor. I love the way you just letting everyone know, hey, this is who I am. This is what I write. This is why I write. This is how I write. And I love that. I always say, be real. If you can't be real with anybody else, be real with yourself and be real with the Lord. You know, lie to everybody else, but be real with yourself and be real with God, because He knows what you're really like anyway, no matter what kind of facade you may put on. And so I'm really just enjoying our conversation, having a great time. And it always goes so quickly. You got about 5 minutes left, Michelle. It always goes so quickly. So I want to give people an opportunity to follow you online. So where can they find you online?
Well, I'm on Facebook under, I can never remember which one's my author page and which one's my regular page, but one is Michelle Sutton, author, and the other is author Michelle Sutton. And I want to say author Michelle Sutton is my actual author page. And I'm on Twitter under Michelle Sutton. And then I do have a blog. I haven't been reading very much lately because I've been doing my own stuff, but it's Edgy Inspirational Author at blogspot.com. There's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reviews and stuff that I posted over the years there. So if you want to find out anything, I would read risky different stuff and post my thoughts on it. So, and I'm on Pinterest, although I think I'm under my married name, and I don't even want to try to spell it.
Hey, just follow Michelle on Facebook. Find Michelle Sutton. Look for the books, and you should be good. So, really excited about having people have an opportunity to connect with you. So, one thing, Michelle, that I love to do about this show, as we end our show, I always want to give our listeners, those out there who have the gift to write, to pick up the pen and write. And sometimes for whatever reason, they have not done that yet. So go ahead and encourage that author out there. Go ahead and write.
So words of wisdom?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you won't know if you love it until you try. And basically, what I always tell people, too, is don't worry about if it sounds good or not. Just get it out there and then go back later. Otherwise, you're going to be working on the same chapter 1 for 10 years, like some of my friends who never finish anything because they never get past the first chapter. So I just say, you know, write the story down and then go back and analyze it. And don't worry. It seems like a lot of people are afraid to have other people read their stuff, like it takes them years. Well, and I don't understand that because some of these folks are very, very gifted that I'm like, why are you afraid to let people read this? It's really good. But for whatever reason, maybe it's the shy, introverted part of us. I don't know. But yeah, I would say just put your thoughts down and don't worry about what it looks like and all the technical details that trip people up. And if it's not fun, don't do it. That's what I would
Michelle, Michelle, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us on the show. I really, really appreciate it. Can't wait to have you back for your next book. And I was looking forward to just reading all of your books and just being really inspired by your work. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And we were just finishing our discussion with Michelle Sutton. She is the author of the new book, The Finish Line, which is available on Amazon.com. But you can also get one of her books for free, Never Without Hope, which is a book I fell in love with that she wrote. And you're going to absolutely enjoy this. So if you have a Kindle, go ahead, get it for free today. It is available. You are going to love Never Without Hope. It's an edgy Christian romance. For some of you, it may be a little bit too hot, but it wasn't too hot for me. It was just right. I definitely loved Michelle's book. I love her writing. I love what she's trying to do. So go ahead and pick up a copy of Michelle's books today. You will not be disappointed. Make sure you leave a review. We love reviews. Authors love reviews. We need reviews. It helps us breathe at night. So make sure you leave a review online at Goodreads or Amazon, wherever. Just leave a review and let us know how you felt about the book. Don't forget to join me for the Parker J. Cole Show on Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And make sure you keep it right here for the best lineup of real Christian radio talk on the PJC Media Network. Deborah on Sundays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the Marriage Playbook at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Mondays. And then join Let's Talk About It with Jenny White at 8 p.m. Eastern Time right here on the PJC Media Network. Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of The Right Stuff. I am the queen of Tuesday nights, Parker J. You have a wonderful, absolutely glorious, blessed day. Thank you for joining us for this edition of The Right Stuff. Follow Parker online at parkerjcole.com. To hear this show and other shows, visit the show archive at therightstuffradio.wordpress.com. We'll be back same time next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.